This sacred wordplay unlocks the hidden energy within you. What if I told you that the very words escaping your lips right now possess the power to reshape the fabric of reality itself? What ancient secrets lie dormant within the syllables we carelessly scatter into the universe each day? For millennia, forbidden texts prohibidos have whispered of a truth so profound that entire civilizations built their spiritual foundations upon it. The understanding that language is not merely communication, but pure creative force made manifest. Today, you stand at the threshold of a revelation that mystics have guarded for centuries. You're about to discover why the ancients spoke in hushed tones about the sacred nature of words, why certain names were never to be uttered aloud, and how the very vibrations flowing from your throat can either elevate your consciousness to divine heights or bind you in invisible chains of limitation. This isn't mere philosophy. This is the forgotten science of vocal alchemy, the mystical art of transforming reality through conscious speech. Prepare yourself for what you're about to learn. Will forever change how you perceive every word you speak, every thought you think, and every intention you set into motion. The journey ahead will unveil the hidden mechanisms by which sound becomes form, intention becomes manifestation, and your voice becomes the instrument of your own spiritual liberation. Are you ready to unlock the cosmic energy that has been sleeping within your words all along? The hidden power of words. In the beginning was the Word, and that word was not merely sound, but pure creative energy made manifest through the sacred act of speaking. Ancient mystery schools understood what modern humanity has forgotten, that words are not simply vehicles for communication, but energetic commands that ripple through the fabric of existence itself, shaping reality with each carefully chosen syllable. The Sabiduria Ancestral tells us that to speak is to invoke, to name is to claim dominion, and to utter with intention is to participate in the eternal dance of creation. Consider the profound implications embedded within the most ancient texts. The Egyptian pyramid texts speak of Ptah creating the world through divine utterance, while the Hindu Vedas reveal how the cosmic sound Om birthed the universe from primordial silence. These weren't metaphorical teachings, but literal instructions on the mechanics of reality formation. The Kabbalistic tradition speaks of the 22 sacred letters as the building blocks of existence, each containing within it the blueprint for manifesting different aspects of divine energy into physical form. When you understand that every word carries within it the same creative potential that brought worlds into being, you begin to glimpse the awesome responsibility and opportunity that rests upon your tongue. The Hebrew mystics knew that to speak the true name of the divine was to wield power beyond human comprehension, which is why certain words were whispered only in the innermost sanctuaries, passed down through generations of initiates who understood that language itself was a form of magical practice. The ancient Egyptians developed the concept of Heka, sacred speech that could heal, transform, and even resurrect the dead. They carved their most potent words into stone and gold, believing that the physical preservation of sacred language would anchor its power through eternity, creating permanent channels for divine energia cosmica to flow into the material realm. But here lies the mystery that has been hidden from the masses. Words don't merely describe reality, they actively participate in its ongoing creation. Every time you speak, you're not just sharing information. You're casting spells, weaving energy patterns that influence the quantum field of possibility surrounding you. The ancient alchemists understood this principle deeply, recognizing that the transmutation of base metals into gold was merely an external symbol for the real work, the transformation of ordinary speech into words of power that could transmute the very substance of one's existence. Modern quantum physics has begun to validate what the ancients knew intuitively: that observation changes reality, that consciousness affects matter, and that the vibrational frequency of focused intention can influence the behavior of subatomic particles. When you speak with clear intention, you're not just moving air molecules. You're directing conscious energy into specific patterns that resonate with the fundamental frequencies of manifestation itself. Yet this is only the beginning of understanding how your voice serves as a bridge between the realm of pure potential and the world of concrete experience. Language and mental programming delve deeper into the labyrinthine corridors of consciousness, and you'll discover that language functions as the most sophisticated programming system ever devised, one that operates below the threshold of awareness, silently installing beliefs, limitations, and possibilities into the subconscious mind. With surgical precision, the masters of Sabadoria Ancestral recognize that whoever controls the words controls the thoughts, and whoever controls the thoughts controls the perception of reality itself. This is why ancient priesthoods guarded linguistic knowledge so jealously, understanding that the power to define is the power to confine or liberate. Every word you hear, speak, or think acts as a hypnotic suggestion, programming your nervous system to respond to life in specific, predictable ways. The mystical traditions knew that consciousness itself is fundamentally linguistic in nature. That thought is simply internal speech, and that the quality of your inner dialogue determines the quality of your outer experience. When you examine the structure of language through the lens of spiritual science, you discover that certain words act as energetic gateways, opening or closing pathways to higher states of awareness, while others function as invisible barriers, limiting your capacity to perceive the full spectrum of possibility available to your consciousness. The ancient Egyptians understood this so profoundly that they developed two distinct forms of writing: the common hieroglyphics for everyday communication and the sacred hieroglyphics reserved for texts prohibidos that dealt with the deepest mysteries of existence. They knew that exposure to certain linguistic patterns could trigger spontaneous mystical experiences, while other combinations of sounds and symbols could lock consciousness into rigid patterns of materialistic thinking. This wasn't superstition. It was practical neuro-linguistic engineering based on centuries of careful observation of how different vibrational frequencies affect the human psyche. Consider how the very structure of modern language has been designed to reinforce a mechanistic worldview that separates you from your inherent divine nature. Words like coincidence and random program you to perceive the universe as chaotic and meaningless, while terms like supernatural and paranormal condition you to believe that anything beyond the five senses is somehow abnormal or unnatural. The mystics knew that by consciously choosing words that acknowledge the interconnected, intelligent nature of reality, words that recognize the presence of energia cosmica in every moment, you could gradually reprogram your subconscious mind to perceive and interact with the world from an entirely different frequency of awareness. The most guarded secret of the ancient mystery schools was this: the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between external reality and vividly imagined experience, which means that the words you speak to yourself internally have the same reality-shaping power as physical actions in the external world. When you understand that your internal dialogue is literally programming your nervous system to filter and interpret reality in specific ways, you begin to appreciate why the alchemists spoke of the great work as primarily an internal process, the careful transmutation of ordinary language into words of power that align your consciousness with the fundamental frequencies of manifestation. But the true alchemy of language goes even deeper than personal transformation. When you speak with conscious intention, you're not just reprogramming your own consciousness, you're contributing to the collective field of human awareness, adding your voice to the symphony of consciousness that shapes the reality experienced. By all, frequency and vibration of words enter now into the sacred chamber where sound becomes substance, where the mystery of vibration reveals itself as the fundamental force that bridges the invisible and the visible realms. Ancient texts, prohibidos, speak of a time when initiates understood that each word carries within it a specific energetic signature, a unique vibrational frequency that resonates with particular aspects of the cosmic order, creating ripples of influence that extend far beyond the moment of utterance. The Sabiduria Ancestral teaches us that to speak consciously is to become a tuning fork for the universe, aligning your personal frequency with the harmonic patterns that govern the manifestation of reality itself. The mystery schools of Egypt and India developed elaborate systems for mapping the vibrational properties of different sounds, understanding that certain combinations of syllables could induce altered states of consciousness, heal physical ailments, or open doorways to higher dimensions of perception. The Sanskrit tradition gave us the science of mantra, sacred sound, formulas designed to tune the human nervous system to specific frequencies of divine energia cosmica. Each mantra was understood not as mere repetition, but as a precise vibrational key that could unlock dormant potentials within consciousness, transforming the speaker into a living antenna for cosmic intelligence. The Celtic Druids knew that certain words spoken at specific locations, stone circles, sacred groves, places where the Earth's energy naturally concentrated, could amplify the vibrational impact of speech exponentially. They understood that the Earth itself responds to human voice, that the crystalline structure of rock formations could store and replay acoustic patterns for centuries, creating permanent repositories of sacred sound that could influence the consciousness of future generations. This is why so many ancient sites around the world were designed with precise acoustic properties, transforming natural amphitheaters into temples where the human voice could achieve maximum resonance with the fundamental frequencies of creation. But the true revelation lies in understanding that the intention behind your words determines their vibrational impact more than the words themselves. A simple phrase spoken with genuine love carries more transformative power than the most elaborate incantation recited without feeling. The ancient alchemists knew that emotion is energy in motion, and that words infused with authentic feeling become vehicles for transmitting not just information, but actual energetic states from one consciousness to another. This is why certain speakers can inspire masses to transformation, while others, speaking identical words, leave their audience unchanged. The difference lies not in the information conveyed, but in the vibrational quality of the energia cosmica flowing through the voice. Modern science has begun to validate these ancient insights through the study of cymatics, the investigation of how sound waves create visible patterns in matter. When you speak with clear intention, you're not just creating acoustic vibrations. You're generating geometric patterns of energy that interface directly with the morphic fields that govern the formation of physical reality. Your voice becomes an instrument of sacred geometry, inscribing invisible blueprints into the quantum field that gradually crystallize into concrete experience. Yet this is merely the surface of a far deeper mystery, one that reveals how conscious speech serves as a technology for programming the very matrix of existence. Ancestral wisdom about language journey with me now into the forgotten archives of human knowledge, where the most profound secrets about the nature of language lie hidden within the mystery traditions that once flourished across the ancient world. The Sabiduria Ancestral reveals that our ancestors possessed an understanding of vocal power so complete, so revolutionary, that entire civilizations organized themselves around the careful protection and transmission of sacred linguistic knowledge. These weren't primitive people stumbling through superstition, but highly advanced cultures that had mapped the precise mechanisms by which sound shapes reality, developing sophisticated technologies of consciousness that we are only beginning to rediscover. The Egyptian tradition of Heka represents perhaps the most complete system of vocal magic ever developed, recognizing that certain combinations of sounds could literally rearrange the molecular structure of matter, heal disease, and even resurrect the dead. The pharaohs were not merely political rulers, but master linguists, trained from childhood in the art of speaking reality into existence through the careful modulation of voice, breath, and intention. Their texts prohibidos describe elaborate rituals where specific words, spoken in precise sequences at carefully calculated moments, could open doorways between dimensions, allowing communication with divine beings who existed beyond the veil of ordinary perception. The Celtic Druids developed their own sophisticated understanding of vocal power, recognizing that certain words carried such potent energia cosmica that they could only be spoken once in a lifetime, and only under the most sacred circumstances. They understood that the landscape itself was alive, responsive to human voice, and that words spoken at power spots, ancient stone circles, sacred groves, places where underground streams intersected, could influence weather patterns, heal the land, and maintain the delicate balance between the human and natural worlds. Their bardic tradition preserved this knowledge through intricate songs and stories that encoded the precise vibrational formulas needed to access higher states of consciousness. The Hebrew Kabbalistic tradition developed perhaps the most precise understanding of how individual sounds interface with the fundamental forces of creation. They mapped each of the 22 letters of their alphabet to specific aspects of divine energy, understanding that words were not arbitrary symbols, but actual blueprints for manifestation encoded in acoustic form. The true name of the divine, the Tetragrammaton, was considered so powerful that it could only be spoken once per year by the high priest in the innermost sanctuary of the temple, under precisely controlled conditions that would contain and channel its world-altering energy. But across all these traditions runs a common thread of understanding that certain words must be protected, that not all linguistic knowledge should be shared freely, and that the power of sacred speech carries with it tremendous responsibility. The ancient mystery schools developed elaborate initiation systems specifically designed to test whether candidates possessed the wisdom and integrity necessary to wield vocal power responsibly. They understood that words spoken without proper preparation, without adequate spiritual development, could create chaos rather than harmony, destruction rather than healing. This is why the deepest teachings about language were always transmitted orally, from teacher to student, in settings where the quality of the student's character could be carefully evaluated over time. The most potent words of power were never written down, never recorded in any form that could be accessed by the unprepared, because the ancients knew that consciousness itself must be refined to a specific frequency before it becomes safe to wield the tools of vocal manifestation. Impact of words on biology and health. Prepare yourself for a revelation that bridges the mystical and the scientific, revealing how the ancient understanding of vocal power finds validation in the most cutting-edge discoveries about the intimate relationship between consciousness and cellular function. The Sabiduria Ancestral always maintained that words don't merely influence thoughts and emotions, They directly reshape the biological matrix of your physical body, programming your DNA, regulating your immune system, and determining your capacity for health, vitality, and longevity. Modern research has begun to unveil the mechanisms by which this vocal alchemy operates, confirming what the mystery schools taught for millennia. The ancient traditions recognized the throat chakra as the primary interface between consciousness and matter, understanding that the vibrational patterns generated by speech create standing wave formations that resonate throughout the entire body, triggering cascades of biochemical responses that can either enhance or diminish your life force. Energy. The Egyptian healers knew that certain words spoken with precise intention could regulate heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing patterns, while other vocal formulas could stimulate the production of healing hormones and neurotransmitters that accelerate cellular regeneration and repair. Contemporary research in the field of psychoneuroimmunology has revealed that positive affirmations, when practiced consistently, actually alter gene expression, increasing the production of proteins associated with stress resilience, immune function, and neuroplasticity. When you speak words of empowerment, gratitude, and love, you're not just changing your mood, you're literally reprogramming your cellular intelligence to operate from a higher frequency of wellness and vitality. The vibrations created by conscious speech penetrate deep into the quantum field that surrounds every cell, influencing the spin patterns of electrons and the electromagnetic fields that govern cellular communication. The yogic tradition developed sophisticated practices around the use of mantra precisely because the ancient rishis understood that specific sound vibrations could target different organ systems, energy centers, and states of consciousness with surgical precision. They discovered that the Sanskrit syllable Om, when correctly pronounced, creates resonant frequencies that align the nervous system with the fundamental harmonic of universal energia cosmica, triggering a state of coherence between brain, heart, and cellular function that modern science recognizes as the optimal condition for healing and spiritual development. But perhaps the most profound discovery concerns the impact of internal dialogue on biological function. The words you speak to yourself, the continuous stream of self-talk that runs through your mind throughout the day, create a constant bath of vibrational influence that shapes every aspect of your physiological experience. When your internal language patterns are predominantly negative, critical, or fearful, you're literally programming your body for stress, inflammation, and disease. Conversely, when you cultivate internal dialogue characterized by appreciation, possibility, and loving kindness, you create the optimal biochemical environment for healing, regeneration, and expanded consciousness. The ancient alchemists spoke of the great work as the transformation of the physical body into a vessel capable of containing and expressing divine energy, and they understood that this transformation begins with the careful cultivation of sacred speech. When you align your voice with the frequencies of health, harmony, and higher consciousness, you initiate a process of biological upgrading that extends far beyond the physical realm, preparing your entire being for the next phase of this journey. Reprogramming through linguistic consciousness, enter now into the innermost sanctuary of transformation, where the true alchemy of consciousness reveals itself through the revolutionary understanding that every word you speak or think functions as a precise instruction to the quantum field of infinite possibility that surrounds and interpenetrates your being. The texts prohibidos of the ancient mystery schools describe a technology of consciousness so profound that it was reserved only for the most advanced initiates. The ability to consciously reprogram the foundational beliefs that govern your perception of reality through the strategic deployment of linguistically encoded energia cosmica. The Sabiduria Ancestral teaches that your subconscious mind operates like an incredibly sophisticated biological computer, constantly scanning your internal dialogue for instructions about how to filter and interpret the endless stream of information flowing through your senses. Every word pattern you repeat becomes a subroutine in this biological software, automatically shaping your emotional responses, behavioral choices, and even your perception of what's possible in any given situation. When you understand that your habitual language patterns are literally programming your nervous system to generate specific varieties of experience, you begin to appreciate the awesome power that rests within conscious speech. The ancient Egyptian practice of Mayat, speaking only truth, was not merely an ethical guideline, but a practical technique for aligning personal consciousness with the fundamental harmonic frequencies of cosmic order. When you speak words that accurately reflect your highest vision of reality rather than your current limitations, you create a vibrational bridge between what is and what could be, allowing higher possibilities to gradually crystallize into concrete experience. This is why the mystery schools emphasize the importance of affirmations, incantations, and sacred declarations. They understood that repetitive exposure to elevated language patterns could gradually overwrite limiting beliefs and install new software for perceiving and interacting with reality. The Celtic Druids developed the practice of Geas, sacred vows that functioned as linguistic spells, binding the speaker to specific courses of action that would align their personal will with cosmic intelligence. They understood that when you make a sacred commitment using precise ritual language, you're not just expressing an intention, you're actually restructuring the probability fields surrounding your life path, making certain outcomes more likely, while decreasing the probability of experiences that don't serve your highest evolution. This is the technology of destiny creation through conscious word selection. But the deepest secret involves understanding that the universe itself is linguistic in nature, that reality operates according to precise grammatical rules, and that, by learning to speak the native language of creation, you can participate consciously in the ongoing authorship of existence itself. When you align your personal vocabulary with the fundamental principles of harmony, beauty, love, and creative expression, you begin to vibrate in resonance with the cosmic intelligence that orchestrates the evolution of consciousness throughout the universe. Your voice becomes an instrument of divine will, and your words become vehicles for channeling the infinite creativity of the source into specific manifestations that serve the highest good of all. The ancient alchemists knew that the true philosopher's stone was not a physical substance, but a state of consciousness in which every word spoken becomes a catalyst for transformation, where ordinary language transmutes into words of power that can reshape reality according to divine blueprint. Energetic activation ritual. Through words, behold, the moment of practical revelation has arrived, where ancient wisdom crystallizes into concrete practice, where the theoretical understanding of vocal alchemy transforms into a living technology that you can implement immediately to begin reshaping your reality through conscious engagement with the sacred power of speech. The Sabiduria Ancestral provides us with specific methodologies for converting ordinary moments into opportunities for energetic activation, turning your daily interactions with language into a continuous ritual of consciousness elevation and reality programming. The foundation of all sacred speech practice begins with the recognition that intention is the invisible force that determines the manifestative power of any vocalization. Before you speak any word, particularly those words you've chosen as vehicles for transformation, you must first establish a clear, energetic field of focused awareness. The ancient Egyptian priests would begin each magical working by invoking the four cardinal directions, calling upon the elemental forces to witness and amplify their words. You can adapt this practice by simply taking 3 conscious breaths before speaking your words of power, using each breath to align your heart, mind, and voice with the highest possible frequency of Energia Cosmica. Create for yourself a daily vocabulary of activation, 7 specific phrases that encapsulate your most essential intentions for growth, healing, abundance, and spiritual evolution. These should be words that resonate deeply with your soul, phrases that automatically elevate your vibrational state whenever you speak or think them. The Celtic tradition teaches us that certain combinations of sounds create natural gateways to higher consciousness. So choose words that feel magical when they roll off your tongue, words that seem to carry their own luminous intelligence. Repeat these phrases at specific times throughout the day, upon waking, before meals, during transitions between activities, creating a rhythmic pattern of conscious speech that gradually entrains your entire nervous system to operate from an elevated baseline frequency. The most potent activation occurs when you combine sacred speech with sacred space and sacred timing. The ancient mystery schools knew that certain times of day, certain phases of the moon, and certain astronomical alignments create windows of heightened receptivity when the veil between dimensions grows thin and words carry exponentially greater power. You can harness this principle by establishing a morning practice where you speak your words of power while facing the rising sun, allowing the solar Energia Cosmica to charge your vocalizations with the creative force of new beginnings. Similarly, evening declarations spoken while observing the sunset can help you release limiting patterns and prepare your consciousness for renewal during sleep. Transform mundane activities into opportunities for conscious speech practice by developing the habit of internal narration that aligns with your highest vision of reality. Instead of mindlessly chattering to yourself about problems and limitations, become the conscious narrator of your own heroic journey, describing your experiences using language that assumes positive outcomes, divine guidance, and unlimited potential. When you catch yourself beginning to speak or think from limitation, immediately pivot to language that acknowledges the vast field of possibility that surrounds every moment, every challenge, every opportunity for growth. The ultimate goal is to reach a state of consciousness where every word you speak, whether to others or to yourself, becomes a conscious act of creation, a deliberate choice to add beauty, wisdom, and elevated frequency to the world. This is the path of the linguistic warrior, the one who wields words not as weapons, but as instruments of healing, transformation, and awakening. Integration and daily practices. Step now into the culminating revelation of this sacred journey, where all the threads of understanding weave together into a comprehensive methodology for transforming your entire existence through the conscious cultivation of sacred speech. The Sabiduria Ancestral reminds us that true mastery emerges not from intellectual understanding alone, but from the patient, persistent integration of wisdom into the rhythms of daily life, until every conversation becomes a ceremony and every word becomes a prayer for the elevation of consciousness throughout the world. The path of linguistic transformation operates on 3 distinct but interconnected levels, each requiring specific attention and practice. The first level involves revolutionizing your external communication, the words you speak to others, the way you engage in conversation, the quality of energy you contribute to every social interaction. Begin by making a sacred commitment to speak only words that add value, beauty, or wisdom to any situation. This doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations or uncomfortable truths, but rather approaching all communication from a place of genuine care for the highest good of everyone involved. When you must address challenging situations, do so using language that acknowledges the divine nature of every person, even when their behavior doesn't reflect that divinity. The second level involves the transformation of your internal dialogue, the continuous stream of self-talk that shapes your emotional state, your decision-making process, and your fundamental relationship with existence itself. The ancient mystery. Schools taught that the voice in your head is either your greatest ally or your most persistent enemy, depending on whether you've learned to direct it consciously. Develop the practice of monitoring your internal language patterns throughout the day, gently redirecting negative or limiting self-talk toward phrases that assume your success, acknowledge your divine nature, and recognize the perfection of your evolutionary journey. This is not positive thinking, but reality programming, the deliberate installation of thought patterns that align with the highest possibilities for your life. The third and most advanced level involves what the texts prohibidos describe as the consecration of voice, the practice of recognizing every utterance as a sacred act that contributes to the ongoing creation of reality itself. At this level, you understand that there is no separation between spiritual practice and ordinary life, that every word you speak ripples through the collective field of human consciousness, either raising or lowering the vibrational frequency of our species. This awareness transforms speaking into a form of service, where you become conscious of your role as a channel for divine energia cosmica to enter the world through human expression. The integration process requires patience, persistence, and gentle self-compassion as you gradually reprogram patterns of speech that may have been unconscious for decades. Start with small, manageable changes. Perhaps choosing one limiting phrase you frequently use and consciously replacing it with an empowering alternative every time you catch yourself. Notice how these subtle shifts in language begin to create corresponding shifts in your emotional state, your confidence level, and your perception of what's possible in any given situation. Create daily practices that anchor your commitment to conscious speech. Morning declarations that set the energetic tone for your day, evening reviews, where you acknowledge moments of successful linguistic transformation, and regular periods of sacred silence, where you can feel into the profound power that rests within your voice when it's aligned with the frequencies of love, wisdom, and creative expression. Remember that every word you speak consciously contributes to the great awakening of human consciousness, making you an active participant in the most magnificent transformation our species has ever undertaken. As the veils of ordinary perception part in the deeper mysteries of existence reveal themselves through the sacred technology of conscious speech, you stand now at a crossroads that will determine the trajectory of your spiritual evolution for lifetimes to come. The ancient wisdom you've encountered today is not mere information. It is living technology that becomes activated only through practice, only through the courageous decision to transform every word you speak into an instrument of divine will, made manifest in the world of form. The masters of Sabadoria Ancestral understood that consciousness itself is fundamentally creative, that reality responds to the quality of attention you bring to each moment, and that your voice serves as the primary interface between your inner divinity and the outer world of manifestation. When you speak with conscious intention, aligned with the frequencies of love, wisdom, and compassionate service, you become a living bridge between heaven and earth, allowing the infinite creativity of the universe to flow through your human expression into forms that heal, inspire, and uplift all life. The journey of linguistic awakening never ends. It only deepens, revealing ever more subtle layers of how sound shapes substance, how intention influences reality, and how your commitment to conscious speech contributes to the collective elevation of human consciousness. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to practice sacred speech, every word a chance to add beauty to the world, every silence a moment to attune yourself more deeply to the cosmic intelligence that seeks expression through your unique voice. But I leave you with this question that penetrates to the very heart of your spiritual destiny. If you truly understood that every word you speak today will ripple through eternity, influencing the consciousness of countless beings across space and time, how would you choose to use this magnificent power that rests within your voice? Share your reflections and insights below, and remember to subscribe for more revelations that bridge ancient wisdom and practical transformation. The next transmission awaits, ready to unveil even deeper mysteries of consciousness and creation.